Hello, I didn't see you there. Good to see you all. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight for this Sunday. I should check the date before I decide I'm going to say that. October 5th. Typhoon night in much of eastern Japan, including Tokyo, at least starting tomorrow morning. I'm a little bit under the weather. It's alright. It's just the change of the season's getting a bit cold. So I might go a little bit short tonight, but we will see. I'm feeling okay. I actually was just heading to sleep just now, so I'm in the process of waking myself up. But good as always to see all of you. And you know what? I just realised I'm not on the screen that I thought I was on. But good to see you all. And let's get straight into the comments. And lots of news topics, lots of stuff tonight. For those of you who are following my Flipboard, I guess you can see. In all my magazines, I picked out lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff really, really good to read this week, which made it really hard to pick out topics. So we'll get through what we get through. Nothing really, really big going on. I mean, there's things that are big going on. There's the stuff in Hong Kong, obviously. There's been all the goings on around the nuclear eruption, the volcanic eruption, and so on that have been going on this week. I'll give a quick update on one thing on this. Which is my iPhone 6 Plus and how that's been going. I'll do that first because I love this sort of stuff. So as you can see, I've got a case for it. It's pretty cool. I've got like I love this one. It's got a pocket. You can put some cards. So I've got like my Kasuka card, my train card in it. And I can stand it up like this, which this is something when I had the case with my last phone, I found it made a really big difference. Like for example, at night if I'm lying in bed and I want to read, I can just pop this up on my stomach like this. I can read it quite comfortably. I can watch videos and stuff like that, which, it's more comfortable than holding the entire time. In terms of the size, I don't find it too big. I'm pretty comfortable with it. I haven't had real awkwardness with it at all. I love the screen. Yeah, the size feels good to me, actually. I mean, I know it's big, but that's what she said. But yes, it's brilliant. I love it. It's fast. The screen is beautiful. Performs great. And I don't know what I did before. My other phone does feel, small now. And the screen's beautiful. And I'm a fan of the iPhone 6 Plus. So yeah, it's working out real well. And I love this case as well. I'm not going to get a gel skin this time. I'm just going to stick with this. It's like a wallet, basically. And it's working out very nicely. So I'm going to put that on charge. And how are we all doing? My baby clothes, as I call it on Facebook. The camera is awesome. I'm seeing comments from Razel Ghul saying Expendables 4. And yeah, as Travis Moore says, Jason Statham does pretty much star in the same movie over and over. I saw Expendables and Expendables 2, both one after another on TV here. And, Expendables was silly. And Expendables 2 was almost like a retirement home. It was very silly. But then I saw that they continued to make more of they made more of them, so I don't know how they could get sillier than the last ones. I'll probably watch at some point. But anyway, let's get in the comments, see who's here, say hello to everyone, and then we'll get into the stuff which I picked out that I thought was interesting to talk about. So, boom, my voice isn't perfect, as you can hear. I use this stuff when I get cold in Japan, pabro. It's not medicine, it's kampo, which is Chinese medicine. It's got medicinal stuff in it, and it looks like medicine the way that it's packaged. It makes me really sleepy. That's why I was just asleep. But it is pretty good. It stops running nose and stuff like that. So I recommend it for those of you who are here. I mean, it works for me. It doesn't work for a lot of foreigners, actually. They complain the medicine here doesn't work. Maybe I've been here so long now. Maybe I'm adapted. It works. But anyway, so in terms of the topics, Lucas Musser, good to see you. And indeed, I'm here. That screen is acting a bit weird. Is that a new thing? Why is that so enormous at the top there? Anyway, Razogul, let the games begin. That's right. Lucas Massa, you're only going to be able to watch comments and you'll have to watch the video later. So, okay, Lucas, hope you enjoyed this when you watch it a second time later. And thanks for following. Travis Moore, good to see you as always. I've still got to sort out getting that shirt done now, but thank you for doing the vectored picture. I really appreciate it. And there will be a Tokyo Tonight shirt, thanks to this man, Travis Moore, right there. And it'll be pretty cool. It'll be a little bit like Shoot Tokyo. It'll be a little bit of a, rather than something kind of silly with my face on it, it'll be something a bit more stylish, which you might actually like, which is just something that's nice to have. That's why I follow that, so thank you for your help with that. Who else we got in the house? We got some pre-chat. Solid CK, good to see you. Kantensai, konbanwa, good to see you. まだ日本語の番組を考えてるんだけど、ただそう時間取るのがいつもの課題だけど、でも yeah, I really do want to do a Japanese show and I'm still trying to think about what to do around that. It's just I really can't do another day at the moment. I'm just too full up, but yeah, I'll come up with a solution to that eventually. Russ-san, good to see you. Uncle Elias, good to see you. And I did not make it out to the Formula One Grand Prix. Of course, I heard about the accident and everything. There's been a lot of drama going on with the F1. I used to follow F1. There was a time really back in its heyday, in around 1990 perhaps, that it was really big when you had Mansell, Prost, Senna. That was kind of the golden age of F1, and I was a big fan of it back then. I don't really know what happened to it. I guess it just doesn't get the same media coverage anymore. But indeed, I'd love to get down to Suzuka and to watch it one day. It's still, of course, huge in Japan. And you've been watching in Florida. That's pretty awesome, Uncle Elias. You've been enjoying the coverage of the typhoon, I guess, which would have also been making it interesting. Austin Richardson, good to have you along. You haven't seen one of these shows in months, but you've had a busy semester. Well, welcome along, and hope you've had a very productive semester. Globby, good to see you. Hello from Poland. Oh, okay, welcome from Poland. Nice to have you here, Globby. Not too cold yet. 14 degrees. Well, that's cold. I guess it gets colder there. Strange week. Oh, really? The highlight of your week? Well, that's very nice of you to say. I haven't been to Poland. I've been to Romania, which is south, and that was cold enough. I can't imagine it must get really cold in Poland. Trabius H, good to see you, sir. Adam Milichip, very good to see you. Good evening. December Clouds, good to see you. Get a snack. Put your feet up. Landing Wombat, really good to see you, of course. Hello, Taiwan. I guess everyone, including Taiwan's been very interested following what's been going on in Hong Kong. I guess I haven't actually picked out some time on that, but I think I might come back to that because that is an interesting topic, and to tell the truth, I haven't really formed a strong opinion on it. Other than, of course, that I hope whatever happens there happens peacefully, that it works out. But yeah, it just occurred to me one thing. There might be a little bit of feedback, so I'm just going to mute this just in case. Boom. Also, S. Rob, good to see you, as always. Narcissus, good to see you. Also, we got Lisi, which isn't Lisi. I've always been pronouncing your name wrong, and I'm sorry, Lisi, but very good to see you. And hey, Hedgie, good to see you. Good crowd here. Martin Coyle Granheim, good to see you. John W. Hi from Bloomington, Illinois. Well, good to see you, John W., and welcome from Illinois. It must be really early in the morning there. December Clouds, I think I saw you before, but yeah. All you guys are always here indeed. Benjamin Harris, good to see you. And hope you're enjoying being here. And let the technical problems commence. Indeed, it was pretty smooth on it. Maybe I need to catch a cold and fall asleep and start with 5 minutes notice more often, because it makes me tinker less, which causes less problems. It's Hiko time. Puts on shades is Landing Wombat. Do I have that effect on people? What happens on TT stays on TT. That's damn right, Lucy. That's damn right. Claude Speed 30, good to see you. Claude Speed 30, good of you to join. Araki Mike, good to see you. The typhoon was really weak there in Yamaguchi. Well, that was number 18, right? In Japan, they don't name them. Oh, this is the other thing. So the typhoon's name is Fan Phone. Spelt Phanfone, which still sounds like fan phone. I don't know. I just think of the phone that I'm a fan of, my iPhone. When I see that, I mean, what is the next Typhoon going to be? Typhoon Phablet? Typhoon Note Extra Plus. Seriously, it's dumb. I mean, what is it? You have Typhoon Hiko. Traumatize me by naming a wave of death and destruction after me. In all these sexist traditions around typhoons, naming them after women or people that used to divorce or broke up with meteorologists, it was like the revenge of of male chauvinist meteorologists who always got dumped by girls. It's that they named hurricanes and typhoons after them when they became adults. It's stupid. Japan just numbers them. It just has every year Typhoon number 1, Typhoon number 2. This is Typhoon number 18 from 2014. It's easy. It's not sexist. There's no confusion between them. And people remember. They remember that Typhoon number 6 from 3 years ago was huge or whatever. They talk about it like that. I know that everyone, talks about, well, maybe having a name makes it slightly more memorable, but honestly speaking, I don't see any benefit to really naming them. I think the Japanese system for naming typhoons just by numbers makes a lot of sense. And yeah, they're usually, well, the thing is, everything in Japan is pretty much designed for handling typhoons. So it's pretty rare for houses to be sort of knocked down or, anything like that. What you do get landslides, which there's been a big problem with this year. Partly, I think El Nino is happening this year, and it's caused more rainfall in parts of Japan, which causes the ground to be waterlogged. Another thing is Japan is extremely mountainous, and so when they build out cities, because landslides have always been a massive problem in Japan, because between earthquakes and typhoons all the time, waterlogged soil is a big problem. So it's not really safe to build on hills. In New Zealand, we build everywhere on hills, and you have these views. In Japan, when they want to expand a city into hills, they bulldoze the hills flat. I mean, even like mountains. Of course, it makes Japanese cities very bicycle friendly. There are some exceptions, by the way. Hakodate in Hokkaido and Nagasaki are famous for their hills and the views that they have as a result of that, because I think they're on granite. They can't flatten those hills. But by and large, Japanese cities are basically, they're built up against and they push out as they expand by knocking down mountains. And this is why in Hiroshima this year, last month, they had these massive, very, destructive landslides which killed dozens of people actually, because they had too much rain. And it was literally on the edges of the suburbs where they built up against these huge steep hills. But yeah, and I guess the lesson from that is, and maybe when we start getting more extreme weather as we seem to be getting with climate change and whatnot, we need to almost have like moats around cities now. But generally speaking, even when we get pretty massive typhoons here, and we've had some really big ones, we have this is number 18 from this year, so we have a lot of them every year. But I've been through a lot of them, even really crazy ones, but they don't have much of a real direct effect, especially in places like Tokyo, other than occasional flooding, surface flooding. So yeah, everything's pretty well built for coping with them. We really wouldn't cope anywhere else. So it's another interesting thing. Everything is built to be, strong with earthquakes and typhoons, and of course we have volcanic eruptions all the time. Just 100 miles west of Tokyo, there's a volcano erupting at the moment that killed now 51. Probably it's going to be up to about 63 people. And nuclear power plants, and geez, we have everything here, literally. But yeah, the typhoon is raining a lot at the moment. It might get windy in the morning. Might not be good to go out in the morning. In fact, my wife and my son are considering not going out, maybe staying home for the first half of the day tomorrow until the typhoon passes. But that's pretty much all that it is. It stops the trains. It's an inconvenience, but that's, there are a lot of places that are going through power cuts at the moment. A lot of places that happens, particularly remote places. But yeah, it's all good. But anyway, that was a bit of a diversion. Araki Mike, you're talking about the typhoon that's going on at the moment. Ramso Gaijin, always good to see you. All right indeed. Getting into the Statham stuff. Thank you for for saying that. こんばんは、台風困るな。通勤できるかな。休みにならないかな。That's exactly what I was just talking about. Kansai Tensai is worried. Everyone's just worried it's going to interfere with their commute tomorrow. Which actually is due to hit right in the middle of the morning commute in Tokyo. That's the biggest thing. It's probably going to stop the trains. But yeah, Yeah. And indeed, Benjamin Harris, I bet indeed the F1 race was a lot of fun in the typhoon. Well, yeah, it would have made it interesting to watch. But yes, there's a bit of a strange conversation going on there. Michael Pickett, good to see you, and please don't apologise for being late. Bevan, good to see you. Oh, now the comments are updating and moving by themselves, which makes it hard for me to keep up. Barringer, good to see you, of course. Straight into the phone breaking, of course, because that's what everyone, you know what you're getting into when you get into this. Of course I'm going to brag about the phone. It is awesome. I love this. It's beautiful. You saw my hyperlapses with it. You know, the camera is awesome. And the pockets are big enough. They're good enough. And yeah, and of course I'm being very careful not to sit at it because it has the bending tension of a skinny Japanese girl could sit on this and bend it. Kids can go into an iPhone shop and bend it, right? This is what they had the big thing with the UK. So anyway, B-Boy Trippin', good to see you indeed. Thanks for the messages on Facebook as well. And yes, I know who you are. And indeed, I guess, but don't go out surfing. There's a kid who went out surfing, middle schooler, who went out surfing in Kanagawa, and they haven't found him. Always a couple of people who do something silly like that. But it is pretty good waves before and after. Of course, be safe. But yeah, I miss surfing, and I'm jealous that you can do it. So, B-Boy Tripping, good to see you. Who else we got here? We got the Reddit and Wit. Yaku Night Owl, good to see you indeed again. Martin Sebula, good to see you. Padawan Kim, nice to see you. How's it going in Matsue? Hey, Mikey Chen, good to see you indeed. Looks like everyone's here. Indeed, Benjamin Harris, always nice to see the positivity in the chat. This is a good crowd. I think this is a good crowd. Scott Manga, awesome to see you. French Akaji, good to see you. Look, everyone's very friendly. See, we're all friends. This is what's cool. This is like Cheers. You know, it's like where everybody knows your name, right? I'm sure everyone comes in. It's like, Norm, am I showing my age? Maybe people don't know what Cheers is. By the way, one thing I also didn't put into my video topics, it really shocked me actually. Apparently this weekend was the first weekend ever, or in like more than 50 years, that US TV did not have a single cartoon or animated TV show playing in the morning on Saturday morning. Which, in fact, I think I saw someone tweet the link back at me, so let me just look at it on my beautiful iPhone. That's awesome, and it's mine, and I finally got it. Yeah, so that's right. Apparently, this is the first weekend in America with no Saturday morning cartoons in like 50 years or something like that. This is on Gizmodo the other day. I just think, that was it's so mind-blowing to me. When I was like, when I was 6 or 7, Saturday, Sunday, I would wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd pour my own cereal, I'd go and sit just to watch non-stop cartoons from when they'd start at 5 a.m. all the way to about 10:30. And that's what I'd watch. I'd watch the Scooby-Doo and G.I. Joe and Ninja Turtles and what was on in those days. I used to watch Astro Boy. that was such a part of me growing up, was waking up on the weekends. And I guess TV. This is a thing that's so different now. Now, my son watches more iPad than TV. Like, no joke about that. And he only watches, because the viewing habits are shaped around the iPad and stuff like that. I guess FYALT Insider. Now kids are too lazy to wake up that early. I don't know if it's that, but I guess, like, for example, at the moment, Yokai Watch is huge in Japan. And, of course, I've been dragged along with that. But it gets big at school. Like, he talks about it with his friends. He comes home, he watches some episodes on the iPad. Then we find out it's on in the evening on Fridays. So we record it on the DVR. So he watches it on Sunday or Saturday morning. Maybe while we're having breakfast, or maybe during the day, or something like that. But he only watches the TV shows he's already decided he wants to watch when we want him to watch them. And it's it means that I would just watch like 20 shows in the morning, and they would always be changing, and I'd just sit there and watch whatever they showed me, and then I would go to school and talk about it with my friends. Now it's kind of the reverse. Now kids kind of talk about the shows that they like, and then they go and they look for them later on their iPads and stuff at home. And in a way, it ends up meaning less TV, which I think is kind of good. But at the same time, I guess I grew up in a generation. I was a real terebiko. I was a TV addict as a kid, and that's probably part of the reason I'm a little bit maladjusted and I can do this, because I grew up watching a lot of TV. But that was like, well, for me, when I moved house 37 times, the TV shows were like a constant, I guess. I mean, that's why whenever I move house, my wife and my family isn't like this now. For me, I would always have the TV on. And whenever I move house, I plug in the TV. Once the TV is plugged in and turned on, and it's making those sounds I'm used to hearing in a home, it feels like home to me once the TV is on and turned on. And I can be anywhere so long as the TV is turned on. And I guess, everyone used to watch the same TV shows and listen to the music or whatever, and you think about movie music and it was all wrapped up with TV, and everyone would watch TV. And although it was kind of, being, in a way, we were being force-fed content, it was also kind of nice that we had that in common with everybody, right? That everybody would, you'd come in, you'd all be listening to the same songs, watching the TV shows, you'd be talking about those things, you'd be influenced by those things, even if they weren't necessarily always positive things. I mean, in New Zealand, we only had 2 channels for a lot of the time when I was a kid, and one of those channels was nothing but documentaries and educational shows. So I guess you can make it positive if you're, it was both were government-run channels. But yeah, like in Australia, there were lots of channels. Or lots, there were like 5. But yeah, you've kind of, I guess we've lost that age. I grew up in an age where all that stuff was mass consumed and mass shared. Everyone listened to the same radio stations, they listened to the same music, the same TV. In a way, you think it was a golden age for the advertisers, for the TV show makers, for the movie makers, for the music makers, because everything could be so channeled at us, for us to consume, and it would really, you could really make a song or a movie, and it would really have a big influence on society. Whereas now we really are in the age of the long tail, and that's what this is. Where rather than everybody being funneled into watching the same content and the same stuff, now everyone just watches what they want to watch, and everything is there, and there's enough. Hey, we only need like 12 people here in the comments, and we got a party, and that's really cool, but it's really different. And I'm part of what's driving that. And the point is now, you're not getting forced to watch whatever some executive wants to put to sell nappies and orange juice to you. You watch whatever the hell you want. My son is in that same age, but it's very different to me. What I grew up in. I think it's better. But it's really going to mean a very different society. I wonder what's going to happen with that when you have a society of people who grow up leading much more disjointed. In a way, it's great because people can focus much more intensely on their interests. And I think it supports greater diversity, but at the same time, it's kind of freaky to me that in America there are no longer cartoons on Saturday mornings, because that was just such a thing with growing up. So yeah. FYALT Insider. How do I think Ace of Base had a career? I don't think they really wanted a career. They just wanted another baby. I don't know, they're kind of good looking, Ace of Base. I don't know. I think they could have made it anyway. I don't know. But I guess that's it. The TV execs, they just saw the sign. It's without understanding, life can be pretty demanding. So, no, I'm a big... but that's right. I'm just thinking, there are so many movies. You think of The Breakfast Club. They show you The Breakfast Club on TV, and everyone comes to school, and everyone's saying, wow, Molly Ringwald's hot. Everyone's going out and buying the song from it. That stuff just doesn't really happen anymore. It's kind of funny, I guess. It's strange. I guess it's just a really different age. MTV invented reality TV. Indeed, they did, Uncle Elias. 80s, man, 80s. That's right. I'm showing my age, perhaps. But, geez, I hate it. I talk like this, and it feels like in the 80s they had this TV show, The Wonder Years, which was, a TV show about a young kid playing like being a young kid in the 60s. And it was really, it was a walk down memory lane for my parents' generation to watch TV. I was like, who the hell wants to watch a TV show about young kids being old? But now here I am, I'm talking about the 80s, just like they were talking about the bloody 60s all the time when I was a kid. I used to think, shut up. So maybe that's what I'll do. Let's get into the news. Tokyo Sonata 89, good to see. Oh, it's flipped a lot. Wait, I saw a comment by Tokyo Sonata 89, and then I lost it. There we go. Used to get up 5, 6 a.m. every day to watch Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. Exactly, that's what I used to do. And you loved watching Saturday Kids TV every weekend. And it's just one of those things. It's a different culture. 3 old dudes, good to see you indeed. Ahmed, also, no question, the world is changing exponentially. it's fascinating to me. I mean, I love it. I mean, this is, even 10 years ago, the long tail was a theory. I remember Tokyo Kuni talking to me about it in 2006, 2007. And everyone knew it, and it made total sense, and everyone could say, it was like a lot of things. It was like Bill Gates, to his credit, was saying back in 2004, we're not going to have, everyone's going to mostly consume content on tablets. And, Microsoft never did a successful tablet. It wasn't until Apple did it. But of course now, between smartphones and tablets, it made sense. I had something like a smartphone in 2001, and it made total sense to me that we're going to get rid of cameras and MP3 players, and, we're going to just do everything on smartphones. It took a long time to come around, and Longtail was like this as well. Longtail being, rather than all the consumption, 90% of the consumption being, in this forced commercial end of the market, and with this very small and very quick sort of long tail of indie stuff, that indie stuff now is 90% of the market, well, that's the direction it's going in. And that's what this is, and I love it, because it means that here I am with you guys, with people in the Middle East, with people in Poland, with people in Morocco, people in Algeria, people in South America, North America, Australia, New Zealand. We all like Japan, we all like what's going on here, and we're here all talking, and this is cool, and this sustains itself. This wouldn't have been possible or sustainable even 10, 20 years ago, right? The technology needed to broadcast something like this meant that you needed a mass market for it. But now we can do that, and that's really awesome. But it means that, and it means that there's a million different shows like this, I guess, with similar kind of setups. But wow, it's just so different, isn't it? It just means that people can grow up now as they want to in totally different worlds, and it's great. But it's really interesting to me. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just obsessing about how cool and interesting, and where does this all go? It's really interesting to me. Padawan Kim, I'm with you, Padawan Kim. That Ace of Base is it's not even a guilty pleasure of mine. It's a pleasure. Caroline Van Oosterbroek, hello from Namba, Osaka. Namba, Osaka. Very good to see you again, Caroline. Good to have you here. Yeah. See, I guess in America it was even the same as in Australia. And New Zealand we had two, and then when we got the third channel in 1990, it was a big deal. Of course, now there's like, a billion channels and nothing everywhere. But yes, I'm gonna drag myself away from the comments, although the comments are still pretty cool. And I'm gonna start getting into the topics that I picked. John W, that's right. Saturday morning was cartoon morning. Sunday morning was go to mass, which I guess I did as well till I was about 13. But I was watching cartoons pretty much even then and afterwards. But yes, and that was another thing. People don't do so much anymore, I guess. December Claus loves Detective Conan, which I know a lot of people who do love that show. I've never had the chance to get into it. Maybe if it's still going when my son gets a bit older. But yes, that's right. So let's get into the magazine stuff. So I couldn't even filter this week. I don't know. It was just a lot of stuff which is just interesting this week. So if you have a look at my Flipboard magazines, as you all know, I've got 6. I've got one which just catches everything, one for my Japanese language content, and there was a lot of Japanese language content this week, which I thought was which I found interesting. Then there was, in fact, I'm just gonna do. There's a little bit of the video overlapping there. Sorry, I'm just going to correct something on the screen. This might make it worse. Okay, that's just aesthetics. But boom. So one is just all my Japan content. One is all on my Japanese language content. It's pretty much the same stuff. I only use a few sources. I use the Hatena bookmarks, Itai News, NHK. That's really about it, actually. There's a few other things that I kind of link to for that, but it's from a few sources. I find it all really easy to read. It's easy to read Japanese, especially the Itai News. And the comments. It's kind of how to comment in Japanese on the internet. It's kind of fun. I pick a lot of stuff from there, and they pick up a lot of that naturally picks up the most the trending news and topics in Japan for Japanese people. They've got all my just English language stuff about Japan and Japan news, which is either news or travel, and there's a whole lot of sources for that. A lot of stuff with the tech news, just kind of everything else cool, but I try to keep it into a tech YouTube, science kind of a thing. A lot of astronomy stuff, a lot of cool stuff going on there lately. They've got a whole magazine just for that, and again, I update it pretty much every Friday night, every Saturday. and the other one is all my own content, and then there's this. There are my video topics, and I try to go through all the topics and stuff which I find most interesting. I put into here. I try to limit it to 6 topics, but I got heaps tonight. We're not going to cover it all. It's already half an hour through, but let's get into it and see what's there. So, bada boom. So a couple of things here. There's a bunch of these lists. There's Nippon.com. There are 2 or 3 of these blogs of listing of top 10 something or other. It's top 10. So here is a Nippon.com, which is actually, this is a really, really good site on a lot of detailed stuff. It's based on translations of pretty intellectual stuff about Japan and Japanese economy. It's by the Japan Foundation, which is a little bit conservative, but the guy who translates it is a bit of a character. He's a personality on Twitter called Durf, D-U-R-F, a very easy to type Twitter name, Peter Durfee, and he's an interesting guy, and he edits the site, and it's a very well put together site. So they've put together a list of the top, and you can see here, actually this is really nicely put together. This is a list of the top tourist destinations in Japan, and unlike the Tofugu top 6 places to take a crap, or the Rocket News latest types of kakigori, this is actually pretty definitive. You can hang your hat on. This is a good thing to use. And this is, I'm looking at this, and this really reminds me of how little I've seen. Let's just go through very quickly. I'll see if I'll just reduce the size of this to fit it all on the screen there. Shiretoku in the far northeast. I've been close to there. I've been to Akanko, which isn't listed on here. I tried to make it to Sapporo, Otaru, famous for the winter ice festival, which I've never been to. I've been to Hakodate, which isn't on there. Yeah, man, there's so many things I haven't been to. I've been to Nikko. I've been to Tokyo Disney, Akihabara, obviously, Tsukiji. These are all in Tokyo over here. Mount Fuji I've been to. Kyoto I've been to once. Hiroshima I went to in 1990. Beppo I haven't been to. It's very close and accessible from Fukuoka, which is where my homestay was, which is awesome. Miyajima, I have actually been to this near Hiroshima, and it's beautiful. Himeji, Osaka I've been to once. Kanazawa is meant to be great. Yeah, this is a really, really great list. So check this out. It's on the first page. It's really, as you can see, very well presented. And it's a great site, actually. It's worth RSSing and following. So go and check that out. Nippon.com's top tourist destinations. Tokyo Des. This is just a blog. Where did this get picked up from? This is from Tokyo. Okay. This is from TokyoCheapo.com. So this is a blog I don't actually follow. I don't know how I got this link. I think I probably got it from someone tweeting it. And this is another thing for my Twitter. I have lists on Twitter that I follow of people who are interesting. But yeah, so this came up 10 free things to do in Shibuya, and I love Shibuya. So what are 10 free things to do in Shibuya that are awesome? Scramble crossing. I love walking across Scramble crossing, and yeah, watching it. It can be pretty fun. You can watch it from the overbridge that goes across the Inokashio line. Agree. Peep some art. There are lots of art galleries around there. That's something I probably haven't done enough, but indeed that's something you can do. Yoyogi Park, indeed, the best way to get to Yoyogi Park is not from Yoyogi Station, just like Shinagawa Station is not in Shinagawa, and Meguro Station is not in Meguro. In Japan, Tokyo, they seem to love naming places after things that are not where they are. Yoyogi Park is one of those things that's accessible from Shibuya, and indeed hanging out at Yoyogi is pretty cool. Shibuya City Library, I haven't been there, but okay. When I went to Hiro, actually, when I went to go study in the library, but apparently the library is pretty good, so it's worth checking out. Hachiko, that dog statue, the one from the Richard Gere movie that didn't sell. Yes, indeed, the place to meet back when people didn't have mobile phones and anything else to go by. There were only 2 places in Tokyo that you would meet in the old days, 16 years ago. When you were going to meet someone in central Tokyo and go and hang out, you say 2 o'clock at Alta, Studio Alta, which is a big TV screen in front of the east exit of Shinjuku Station, or you meet at the dog. The dog is the statue of Hachiko the dog, which sits outside the Hachiko exit of Shibuya Station. Shibuya, those were like the only 2 places, and it used to be hundreds of people would meet at those places. So even if you get there, finding the person you want to meet was always a big thing. Geocaching. Okay, so this is okay. So GPS treasure hunting, smartphone games. Love Hotel Hill, Dogenzaka, indeed. And in the middle of Dogenzaka, actually, it's not. Dogenzaka is cool not only for the great shopping on the outside, the love hotels, and that kind of crazy vibe. There's some freaky love hotels as well, but really interesting to walk around on the inside. And then the very center, you have the nightclub district, which has some of the best nightclubs in the world, right in the middle. And they're put there in the middle because they can be noisy and the people bonking and the hotels around don't complain. Usually if you put them near any residential area, people complain about the noise. So nightclubs in Japan are always under stress and pressure with noise regulations. But they can do it there in Dogenzaka, around where the Love Hotels are. So Dogenzaka is a really interesting place to go hang out. I agree with that. A groove thing, lots of DJ bars, indeed. And again, around Dogenzaka as well, there's lots of places like that. This is a good list. I agree with this. Mini Live. Oh man, Tower. It still is surviving. It's holding on. Tower Cafe, Tower Records. It is actually for music. Shibuya is the best place in the world to shop for music, hands down. There are so many specialty shops from Sentai and from Tower Records as well, which is still there. But for vinyl, for CDs, for any type of genre of music. And there are so many specialists, like heavy metal only music, house music only shop, hip hop only music shop, drum and bass only music shops, and they're big and they get supplied with all the best music from North America, from Europe, from Asia. I've been shopping in London, and I used to DJ, right? So I go to DJ shops, I go to vinyl shops in London because so much of the stuff I bought in Japan and New Zealand and Australia were from UK labels. So I thought I wanted to go to the best, vinyl shopping in London. And it was nothing. It was like not even 10% of the quality of the shopping in Tokyo, even now. So I agree, the music shopping in Shibuya is the best in the world. I mean, better than New York, better than London. No exaggeration. And snack time, food. That's a good list. I agree with that list. Shibuya is awesome. It's one of my favorite places, even though I am now... People used to joke you had to be like under 25 to be allowed to walk around in Shibuya, which is still partly true, but I don't give a shit anymore. And it still is one of my favorite places to hang out, even though I don't go there very often anymore. So there's a blog here in Japanese which is talking about no matter what you do with the population bomb that's happening at the moment, there still is going to be this problem which they're calling the medical nursing care 2025 problem. So specifically, this is referring to, I think, the number of people who are going to be retired and receiving nursing care, like elderly receiving nursing care around that time, is going to cross some sort of threshold where it's going to, it's I think in Japanese talking about another one of these hidden population bombs. There is a 2025 problem. Which, when I think about my son who was born 2009, so he's going to be 16, right when society's kind of falling apart collapsing under the weight of all the old people. And that's why I need to make sure he speaks English, so that he's got an exit strategy if he really wants it. I mean, I really hope Japan can figure things out, of course, but it's probably not really... Well, it could be one of two ways, as I see it. It could be terrible to be a young person here with elderly so dominating and crushing the society here. The tax burden, the society burden, the disproportionate weight they have in politics and everything can make it just a nightmare to be young. But there again, young people are interesting. They have a way of finding and adapting their own ways around it. And I don't know, I also suspect perhaps the small number of young people in a place like Japan, it could prove to be kind of awesome. They could find ways around, they could find solutions, but I don't know. But yeah, it's a big thing anyway. TheDiplomat.com, which a lot of people tweet. I can't bring myself to RSS them because I don't like their editorial lines very much, and as you can see, it's a lot of words. But there's someone making the very good point here that Japan needs to improve its PR, which is absolutely right. And the way that Abe wants to go about it, by explaining to everybody how, the comfort woman, they were just prostitutes, and we need to have a huge international marketing campaign about this so everyone thinks we're all nice guys. And he wants to do this about whaling. Understand, we want to kill dolphins and whales, it's our tradition, and we the best way to treat these topics is just not to bring them up. Actually, wanting to wage a PR campaign, and indeed, so trying to get its side across. It's about as much saying things as not saying things, and this is where some of the really far right conservatives are really, really out of touch and getting it really badly wrong at the moment, and they're really hurting Japan's image by getting it wrong. I suspect that's a failure. I remember I skimmed over this. This is about a week ago now, but there's some views there on how Japan can improve its PR, which it's been trying to do forever. It's never really been good at communicating about itself. It used to just not do it at all. Now it's trying to do it, it's doing it wrong, and I go back to thinking maybe it was better when it wasn't even trying. 12 must-do experiences in Tokyo. There are a lot of lists like this week, so let's see if I agree with them. So this is, 12. The best sushi that you've never heard of. This is talking about, so I guess we start from this one. Pop culture in Shibuya. Agreed, just talked about that. Of course, Shibuya pop culture is awesome. Twilight in the Sprawl. Yep. This is talking about the view from the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. This is from the Tokyo Government Building. It's one of the tallest buildings in Tokyo. Beautiful view. Nice Instagram photo there, and or Instagram-ish. And agree, and it's free. You can go up there for free, and you've got one of the best views in Tokyo. You don't have to wait for hours like you do at the Skytree. Go to Tokyo Tower or the Tokyo Government Building. Do not go to freaking Skytree, which I haven't been to myself yet. I'll go there sometime. But they put the Skytree right in the middle of like the worst neighborhoods in Tokyo, which I know as part of the intent was to improve and revive those neighborhoods. But you've got a kind of a big view of just a big, well, they're the not so nice neighborhoods in Tokyo. Whereas these buildings are right in the middle of the coolest and most energetic parts of Tokyo. So I totally agree with that. Vending machines. Well, I guess when you've lived here for a while, this is a little bit duh, but yeah, sure, vending machines, they're cool. Must experience vending machine. Well, you can't not really experience vending machines if you're here, so fine, that's all good. This is from Odaiba, or the Odaiba area. They've got the big Gundam statue. This is actually a really old one. This is not the one that's in front of the Daiba City at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty cool, and that's worth checking out. And the whole Odaiba is really, really cool. Elvis, well, wow. This is interesting because these look like photos of the rockabilly dancers, which used to hang out at Harajuku. Now, I don't know, maybe the people who wrote this are really out of date. This is September 2014. Now, these guys have been banned and actively policed and pushed out now for about 10 years. And you cannot see these people there anymore. I've seen them in Ueno Park, in Ueno. It used to be a really big thing. There used to be like TV ads about the rockabilly dancers in Harajuku, and it was a tourist thing. And I came when I saw it in the 90s. But then they decided that they didn't want to be, Ishihara and so on. They didn't want Tokyo to have a reputation of being these kind of punk dancers. So they actually sent police around to kick them out, all the bands and all the dancers. So you really can't see this stuff so much anymore. I guess maybe they're there still sometimes. They don't seem to know even what they're called. They call them greasers, but they're actually, in Japanese, they're called rockabilly. That's a style of music, rockabilly music. And they're kind of, they're worth seeing if you can find them, if the police aren't chasing them away. So, yeah, that's not really there anymore, which is kind of sad. And it's a bit out of date. Tokyo Marathon, awesome. If you can, it's like for participants, it's one of the biggest marathons in the world, and yet it's like only 1 in 4 or 5 people who apply can actually get tickets to race. It's like a lottery. But yeah, that's interesting. I think it's in winter. When is it? It's held every year in February. That's right. It's always cold. It's always kind of snowy when it happens. A hidden gem, the Studio Ghibli Museum, which I've never been to, but I've heard good things about it, so fair enough. A museum in experimental design, 21 Design site. I'm not sure I know that one. There are a lot of really cool design museums and a lot of really cool designers in Japan, so yeah, I'll rock with that. Where to buy denim in Tokyo? Capital. It's in Roppongi Hills. Okay, well, I don't really recommend Roppongi Hills, actually, honestly. I find it kind of confusing and overwhelming and too big and overpriced and snobby. Actually, even went up to the roof of Roppongi Hills, which is awesome. I took my son up there, and everyone was like, having my son there and with a stroller at the time was taken as being some massive kind of inconvenience. I don't really dig Roppongi Hills myself, but okay, that's fair enough. I'm sure they've got cool things. Japanese antenna shops. What do they mean by antenna shops? They mean this is like a regional specialty goods shop, I guess. Is that what they mean? I don't know why they would call that antenna shops, but okay, that's cool. And Tsukiji. Yeah, that's right. Well, that seems to be the list. Not the best list I've ever seen, but meh, why not? sfgate.com, it's okay. Good article by Tofugu, who's done a lot about it. This is like a part of a 3-part series on Abenomics, which frankly I never really fully understood myself. Credit to Tofugu, which is consistently the most subscribable, or one of them and Gaijinpot are the most subscribable blogs on Japan, I think, that exist. And, always a bit high level, always a little bit superficial, but, at the same time, there are some really, really good stuff on there, including I've written for them a couple of times, so of course, the content is excellent. And, they've done some really, really good coverage on Abenomics, which I found myself understanding for the first time, so really recommendable. And taking a look at how it's going. And the real problem, as I understand superficially about how Abenomics is going, is it's not really going that well. I mean, so the idea was to trigger a virtuous cycle of economic growth. And the idea of doing that was that, first of all, to break the deflation cycle, because if everything's getting cheaper all the time, everyone holds on to their money waiting for things to get cheaper before they spend, so they don't spend. And because of that, prices go down more, which forces companies to cut wages. You have this negative spiral of companies being forced. Prices go down, which drives down wages, which drives down consumption, which drives down prices further. And so to reverse that, the first thing you wanted to do was to stop the deflation of prices, stop stuff getting cheaper all the time, which he did by printing crazy amounts of yen to make the yen cheaper, to make everything more expensive. And so that part of it worked. And we are slowly starting to get inflation now. Things are getting more expensive. However, people still aren't spending money, and Japanese companies who are coming under a lot of pressure to increase wages that people can to give the benefit to consumers. Now that prices are going up, companies are supposed to be able to recover more money, and they want them to give people base salary increases. However, the Japanese companies are worried that this is just like a short-term thing, and that everything might go down again. So they are paying higher bonuses, like one-off bonuses, but the base increases are not really happening. So what's happening is people's wages are continuing to not only not go up, but because of all the deflation over the years, they've actually gone down over the years. So wages are still low, but prices are going up, and consumption isn't increasing. And Abe's been, begging employers to start raising wages. He's actually been supporting the labor unions side on this now very publicly, because it's a vital part of what the whole Abenomics thing is trying to do. And he's, trying to generate a lot of stuff to generate positivity, people to feel good, like public work spending, anything to get more money flowing around in the economy so that people feel confident to spend. But people aren't spending because at the moment prices are going up and people are getting poorer. It's making them hold on to their money even tighter right now. But they're trying, and that's my general, very simple understanding. But there's a fantastic detailed thing here. It talks about foreign labor, talks about the structural reform aspects and the immigration aspects of it. It's a really, really good summary. So real good credit to Tofugu for carrying this. And who's the author of this again? I think it's the same guy who wrote all 3 of them. This is by this guy Austin. He did a good job. So go and check out this thing on Abenomics, and if it's working. Also, some interesting news that Japan is increasing the scope of duty-free for foreigners who are visiting Japan. So part of the whole goal to boost tourism is to increase duty-free shopping, the availability of duty-free. And that is what this is talking about. They've increased the range and the number of places. So, for example, department stores. I think if you're going to try to, it is a goal to try to get something like 20 million tourist visitors a year by the time the Olympics starts. And part of trying to do that is to increase shopping vacations, which are of course very popular, particularly with Chinese and near Asian people. So Ito Yokodo, these department stores have started offering sales tax free stuff for tourists, for people who are not resident of Japan, in all the 150 stores. So if you're not living in Japan and you're planning to come on a trip to Japan, there's going to be more tax-free shopping, which is 8. What is it? It's 8% now. It's going to be 10% next year. So it's going to be 10% off everything if you're a foreigner. If you go and shop in the big places that host it. Exactly. They're trying to take advantage. All the department stores and so on, which are big popular places for tourists to go to, they're going to offer more tax-free shopping. So go get it. That's good. I think that's a really smart move, good move for boosting tourism. This is just something that's random for me and for my future plans. There's a great list here. I found this on Lifehacker talking about, based on climate, cost of living, and speed of internet access, the best places to work from home in the world. And they look at places like in Thailand, they include Japan, Korea, and they rate them all. Japan came out kind of neutral, just slightly negative on the list. But yeah, my dad lives in Phuket, as you know. I go there every now and then, and Phuket gets a really good rating. It's got pretty increasingly good internet and very low standard of living and great climate. Really interesting list, so I just found that kind of interesting, so I threw that on there. Yeah, some more really interesting stories here, actually. Oh man, there's so much good stuff to talk about. We've already got 10 minutes to go. Article here about the Australian boss of Konica Minolta, and how when he took over as boss of the local operations in Australia for Konica, and what he did differently to the expat bosses. This is something Rochelle Kopp, who's kind of a Japan intercultural business consultant expert, and really nice lady and really knowledgeable about her stuff, and something because of where I work in a multicultural international company in the Japanese part, so I find a lot of the stuff that she talks about really relevant. And this is a guy who talks about, again, the changes that he made when he got to take over as boss of a Japanese operation in Australia. He made a big statement by knocking down the wall that was put around HR, because there were all these little expat fiefdoms, and this happens even in expat companies in Japan, of course. But the little administrative fiefdoms, including like around somu or HR, is a really big thing in most Japanese companies. He kind of talks about how he learned about Japanese culture and what he changed immediately when he was put in charge. I found that very interesting to read, and it's very relevant to my sort of work life, and I found myself agreeing with a lot of that stuff. Two really interesting stories below that, and really everyone here should read about these, because we talked about the Asahi the other week, and we talk about I talk a lot about context is everything with Japanese politics, with everything, with the history. When people talk about the the celebration of the memorializing of the end of the war, or the Hiroshima bombings, or they talk about the Asahi newspaper, or the bases in Okinawa, you need to understand how crazy Japan was in the 60s and the 70s. And I always talk about this because this has such a reverberative effect on everything that you see now, and without understanding what's been happening since the war, and that really tumultuous period that happened in that 30 years in particular after the war, it's really hard to connect with modern Japan. It's really hard to understand that these things happen. One of the things, and my old boss talked about how in Otomachi, the Mitsubishi Heavy headquarters in the middle of Otomachi, in the middle of the wealthiest, this is like downtown banking center in Manhattan, for example, in Tokyo. This is the banking and the financial center of Japan, of the second biggest economy in the world. They weren't Red Army, but they were like Red Army. They were kind of another split-off leftist group. Went and blew up a building, basically. They blew up the headquarters of Mitsubishi Heavy, killed a bunch of people. And this was like 9/11 happened here. Nobody even talks about it now. When you talk about the sarin attacks, and everyone kind of says this is the biggest peacetime attack in Japan, which it was at the time, but it wasn't the first terrorism attack in Japan. Japan has had terrorism, and it's been domestic. And this was the Red Army splinter groups and those sort of factions in the 70s. And this is, they actually blew up buildings. And I mentioned this before. They were blowing up buildings in Otomachi. This is it. The August 30, 1974. They just had the 40th anniversary of that bombing. And, crazy. And this is around the same time that the university campuses were closing. And that there was a real, when I talked about the other day about Asahi and the background for understanding the Asahi versus Yomiuri, these terrorists were, left-wingers. It was like a flag that they would carry around was the newspaper, the Asahi. And, and they were an anti-right-wing, anti-imperialist, pro, minorities group that liked to blow up buildings of conglomerates. And yeah, so really worth reading that. This is really good history, and it's worth understanding. And if you want to understand modern Japan, you want to understand why you can't talk politics with your boss, and why you should never talk politics with your boss. It's because my boss, who, when I'd say those right wingers are crazy, and you start sounding a little bit too lefty to your boss, well, my boss worked in the building next to this building that got blown up by left wingers. He's a Yomiuri reader. And he really gets really upset when people start saying pro-left wing stuff, because he was next to a building that got bombed by them. And that's, again, you have to understand why people hate the Asahi so much, who hate it, and vice versa, of course. And another spin-off right underneath it. Apparently the when you talk about the Red Army, people don't really understand the Red Army. It sounds like the PLA, it sounds like the Chinese army. But of course, it was a Japanese group of the ones that did the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries bombing were domestic, focused terrorists that focused on right-wing institutions within Japan. However, the Red Army itself, the central group, was an international revolution group, and they were serious. These were Japanese people. They went to the Middle East. They attacked Lod Airport in Israel. They hijacked airplanes and blew up airplanes, and they did as serious stuff as bloody Al Qaeda, and they were the Sekigun, the Japanese Red Army faction, was the Al Qaeda of the 1970s. I mean, seriously. And one thing that these people did when it got a little crazy, and they really imploded. I mean, there's a fascinating story around the Red Army. What you can read about them. They turned on each other. They just became so violent and so radical that they started killing each other. And they splintered off into all of these faction groups, a lot like the PLO, the PLO and the Palestinian groups. They stood for the same causes, and they kind of had the same problems. And one group of these guys went and hijacked a domestic flight to Fukuoka from Tokyo, and they redirected it towards Pyongyang. And fascinating story about this hijacking. They let some hostages off in Fukuoka, but they flew the rest to Pyongyang, where some of them were basically, I think, where they were eventually allowed back to Japan, except for, if I remember the story right, and this might be another hijacking, but there was one person, it might have been a Korean person on the plane who was screaming stuff about, bad stuff about Kim Il-sung, and he was not returned. He disappeared. So of the hostages, there was, I think, 1 or 2 victims, actually, but from the North Korean, they disappeared after they got taken away. But basically, they were flying to the paradise, the workers' paradise in North Korea. And part of there was a ruse. They actually landed. The pilots kind of somehow they figured out that they tried to land in Seoul. And Seoul, of course, South Korea was under a military dictatorship at the time. They actually painted up the entire Seoul airport. They put up big picture of Kim Il-sung on the airport in Incheon or wherever it was in those days. Gimpo, probably, in Seoul. And they tried to make it look like Pyongyang Airport, and the pilot, who had been secretly communicating with the controllers, landed in Seoul and tried to trick the hijackers into landing in South Korea. However, when they landed, they thought something didn't smell right. They saw people on the tarmac in North Korean uniforms with flowers waiting for them, and they tried to convince these people that they were in North Korea. However, they listened to the radio, and they heard like rock and roll music playing on the radio, and there were a few things that just kind of, and then they realized, this is a trick. We're in South Korea, that they're trying to make. The South Koreans actually converted the South Korean Seoul airport. They actually converted it into Pyongyang Airport just to deceive these hijackers. And they were a little bit wise to that, so they ended up making the plane take off, and they flew actually to Pyongyang, and they still live there. And not only did they live there, but they were very helpful with the North Koreans in helping them to abduct and to brainwash and train and torture the Japanese who were abducted, the civilians who were abducted by the secret spy forces of the North Koreans to use as trainers, and force them to marry with people there and so on. They were involved in facilitating the secret operations to abduct Japanese to help train their spies, which weren't for spying on Japan, by the way. They were for spying on South Korea, but they wanted to train North Koreans to pose as Japanese to spy on South Korea, to infiltrate South Korea. And they wanted to do this by abducting ordinary people from Japan, and these bloody psychopaths, these Red Army people, helped them do that. And in fact, one of the people, one of the 3 of the abductees were Red Army people supporters, actually, apparently. I mean, they went over there to go and help, and they ended up getting abducted as well. So these are and these people now have a Twitter account. Welcome to Twitter from North Korea. They're tweeting about, pro-Palestine causes still, and all the stuff that the Red Army stood for 40 years ago. And I bet they're reading the Asahi online. And I like the Asahi. I do. And I even retweet the Asahi all the time. But again, you have to understand, when you're talking about people who feel really strongly, this is why you cannot talk about politics in Japan, because this stuff happened. Oh man, I could just talk about this for the whole hour, but we're actually out of time. But I'm going to go through a couple more stories anyway. There's a great population decrease map. Right now, the government is so focused on trying to stem population decline in rural areas in Japan. Mainly because, of course, the LDP comes from these constituencies that are they're from these underpopulated areas where everyone's vote is worth 10 times more than it is in the cities, and they're trying to find ways to discourage young people from leaving these dying towns and coming to Tokyo and to the big cities. And that's wrong. I mean, I've said this over and over. That's wrong. Let the country towns go back to nature. Seriously, facilitate it. Make them really nice places to live. Knock them down. Bulldoze. Confiscate the properties. Bulldoze them. I know I'm sounding a bit like the Red Army now, but the government's got to step in and manage the decline of those towns. It's throwing money, trying to push back, frankly, a tide that can't be stopped with population decline in those small towns. Take the energy of those young people into the cities and put it to work. Put that to economic work. Put them into, focus all the economic power and investment in the cities and make those cities great places for those people to be. And manage that. Make the countryside a nice, quiet, peaceful place. Make it like New Zealand. New Zealand's the same size as Japan. We have 3 million people, 4 million people now. We do fine. Let the rest of Japan outside of Osaka, Nagoya, Tokyo, Sapporo, Fukuoka, let the rest of it be like New Zealand. That'd be great, and you'll have a lot of people who voluntarily go and live if you actually make it nice. But trying to continue to cement over the countryside and to pay bribes to people to leave their half-abandoned towns and not leave their half-abandoned towns is a waste of money. It's the wrong way to address the problem. But that's what everyone's doing at the moment. And as these maps show, Japan's going to be womanless and bleak in the countryside. And it's not, I think they should be trying to embrace and facilitate the change and go with the flow a little bit more, if you ask me. But, and there's a lot of endless maps to show how this is going to happen, and there's one of them there. Here's another thing. There's a video of 100 things to do in 100 seconds. I'm sure it's worth watching. But it's from Rocket News, so yeah, they got Buddhas and dolphins and Mount Fuji and stuff, so it looks like a pretty cool video, so go check that out. We're out of time. What else we got? Regional stereotypes. I could have talked about regional stereotypes in Japan. That could have been an hour as well. Abe, photos of Abe talking about stuff. Oh, right. So again, this is him talking about, Abe is talking about we need to increase international PR about the comfort woman issue. Like, that's a good idea. Yeah, really. Here's the thing. I mean, I love Japan, and I'm married to Japan. I'm here as a voluntary, permanent resident, not like the ones in North Korea, right? I'm voluntary. I came here because I love this place, and immigrants are more nationalist in many ways than nationalists, because we understand the international context, and I really want what's best for Japan internationally, and fight. Doing this stuff wrong it pains me so much. Seeing them handle these issues wrong, it makes Japan look so bad, and it's so unnecessary. Yeah, I kind of like that photo of those girls, but this was actually kind of interesting. Maybe this is the last thing I'm going to do. There's a great article again on Shisaku by Michael Kuchek, talking about ironies with the Abe cabinet. There's a ranking again of the most friendly restaurants in Japan. There's a lady here, this old lady down here, says that the SDF, they're currently trying to pull bodies off this active volcano that's erupting in the middle of a typhoon. And there's a problem with lahars. When rain hits the ash, it can build up into these mudslides that can be very, very destructive. In fact, in New Zealand, we know all about these. The Tangiwai disaster, one of the worst volcano-related disasters ever. It washed out a train very close to an area that I used to live. You do not mess with typhoons and erupting volcanoes at the same time, even in operations to rescue bodies. This lady is calling the SDF a bunch of pussies because why are they stopping rescue operations for some rain? I guess that's why they're never going to be a real military that can fight ISIS. What the hell, lady? And this is from my favorite, from Itai News, and all the people said, what? Is this lady nuts? And this lady's saying, go there yourself, you old hag. And a lot of old people just saying very rude things back to her. It's all the things that I think and I want to say back, they're saying in Japanese. So it's very good for Japanese study, even though it's Japanese you shouldn't learn. The last study I'm going to go back, there's so much cool stuff this week, but the last one I'm going to go back into is 10 instances when Japanese feel grateful to be Japanese. And Japanese do talk about this, but these are also the things I think anyone in Japan feels great about living in Japan. I remember reading this and thinking it was a good list. So these are. They took a survey of when Japanese people think they feel glad to be Japanese. And this is the most popular responses, the top 10 ranking. 1, Japanese food. yes, the food here is just amazing, and it makes it the hardest thing for me to leave would be the food. 2, public safety and order. Japan is the safest place in the world. Yeah. Even when you read news and there's all sorts of weird incidents. It's a country of 120 million people. Yeah, exactly. You can be in massive crowds of drunk people and nothing happens. It's incredibly safe. Clean toilets. I think the number of people who say this. So the food. Okay, so when they asked this survey to how many? 662 people. 159 people said food. That's why they love being in Japan. I'll be one of those. Safety, 74 people. Yeah, I'm with them as well. Clean toilets, 27 people. Washlets in homes are the best toilets in the world, and that does actually make it really. Yeah, that's right. If I go to Australia or New Zealand or Singapore and they don't have washlets there, I feel dirty. Yes, so I'll go along with that. Public toilets are not so great in Japan, but yes, the home toilets are great. Onsen, I don't really go to onsen anymore. They are very nice. Not essential for me, but indeed they are something that you don't really get that same naked bathing thing in a lot of other countries. And I could see it really going wrong if you tried to do it in America or England or New Zealand. But it's nice and it works in Japan, so I'll agree with that. 4 distinct seasons. Yes, of course, because Japan is the only country with 4 distinct seasons. They are very distinct, I'll give them that. It's we just have temperatures going up and down, but in Japan they do have these very different seasons, but still good manners. Well, yeah, they have good manners. I mean, I think we're getting in the pretty thin, and this ranking got pretty thin pretty fast once we got to 4 seasons. Yes, people do have good manners here indeed. Tatami, I don't like tatami. I don't like them. They're hard to clean. They smell funny. They get old. They're dusty. They collect dirt. I'm not a fan. Anime and manga. Well, 12 people like anime and manga from that list out of 662 people. Yeah, anime and manga's cool. Heated toilets, see, that should be way, way, way up the list. Yeah, heated toilet seats are yes. And someone there in a kotatsu, which is another thing as well, the heating stuff for winter is pretty awesome. Konbini, 5 people. Konbini should be way up the top of the list, the convenience stores. So, there you go. And other things, for example, the elevators rarely break down. I guess she was maybe in South America or something. Tap water is safe to drink. Yeah, although no one really drinks it anymore. In Tokyo, tap water isn't great, actually. But yeah. Public transport's fantastic. So yeah, this is kind of a Japanese kind of what they love about Japan. It's a bit of a fluffy list, of course, but it still is all valid, good stuff to kind of talk about. It's all interesting topics. We are over time. I got a cold and I got too much stuff to talk about. There's heaps of comments, and I don't know if I can properly even do a comment recap. Let's do a quick comment recap and goodbye. So let me just try to wait a minute. Let me see if I can just reduce that. Okay. Well, bada bing, there are so many comments. Mikey Chen, I have so many things to talk about. I need at least 30 minutes more show. This week I do. Yeah, and I'm verbose, but there are so many topics this week. There's so much cool stuff. That's my problem, isn't it? I need 30 more minutes, but I also have to sleep. And I have to work. And this is... But anyway, let's do a quick scan of the comments. I'm just going to scan through this really, really fast. And if there's anything that I pick... Oh, okay. So this won't have everyone because it's obviously stopped at a certain point. But El Camino, good to see you. Camino, nice suburb of Tokyo. I used to live around there. Actually, it's not a nice suburb, but it's a suburb. It's near where the Skytree is. Xbox. I don't have an Xbox, but yes, Abi will make sure there are lots of robots. I certainly hope he does. Indeed, the morning cereals, cornflakes, Weet-Bix. I used to have, cornflakes, Weet-Bix. Cocoa Pops were not allowed, but I'd get them every now and then as a kid. Yeah, these were all parts of the Saturday mornings, cartoons and cereals. That's right. Oh, Fruit Loops. They used to have stuff I couldn't believe. People would give that stuff to their kids, including me. But yes, that's right. So people remembering Saturday morning TV there and cereals, obviously. Narcissist talking. Yeah, I've actually seen rockabilly dancers in Ueno Park even like a year ago. They're around still, but they're like refugees. They're running around everywhere, and the police are trying to chase them away all the time. Johnny Rotten was in Big Brother. I remember Johnny Rotten. Yeah. Anyway. Quick scan of comments, but Raz, don't worry too much about the likes. I don't. Whenever I care about them, I get dislikes. So I'm cool with it. But give me a flake, man. We're talking about there. Yeah, that's right. And he does laundry videos. He does a lot more, although he's going to have less time for it when he's got a son, but or a daughter when he's got a kid. But yes, I'd like to do more of those, I guess. At the same time, I like being in the same time in the same place to do these. Tax too high in Japan, TriBSH. Well, the sales tax is pretty low by international standards, but that's right. Everyone still complains about it. Indeed, yeah, Britain, everywhere else seems to be higher. Landing Wombat just said something everyone agrees with, which is, yeah, this is the listening to videos and not watching, which is, I guess, what a lot of people do, and why people ask me to do this as a podcast, which I'd still like to do, but it's just this is free, and podcasting is a pain to set up, and it's not free. You have to buy a server and storage and stuff like that, but I still might do it. This is another thing I should do that, I'll get to one day. But this format likes for me. That's fine. That's sponsored by Cornflakes. A lot of people talking about cereals, and why not? I like Cornflakes. I'd be happily sponsored by Cornflakes, Kellogg's Cornflakes. My throat is going. My voice is going. That's right. You guys need to have a party hangout once I leave. 1 hour is too short. I'm sorry about that, Raz. I don't know. I could leave this on. But yeah, no, I'm glad it becomes a party. Come dine with me, YouTube. Indeed. I'm glad to see everyone's getting into the party, actually. Japan's economy is far too large to turn into New Zealand's, Uncle Elias. Well, actually, so coming back to this is about the depopulation thing. This is the thing, though. I think, no, Japan's economy can stay as Japan's economy, but for Japan's economy to be Japan's economy, at least in terms of production and in terms of creativity, you need to kind of bring all those people together. You can't have, rather than having 20 dying towns, it's better to have 3 or 4 thriving towns and 16 small towns than 20 dying towns. Does that math that up? It probably doesn't. So my view is that Japan can be a hybrid. Japan can still be Japan, but Japan can be, rather than having a bunch of, like Flint, Michigan towns, emptied out industrial belts all over the country, which is what the risk is and what they're trying to fight against. They should be trying to turn those places into New Zealand. They should be trying to make them really nice places, natural places, great environment, great lifestyle places for people who want to get out of the cities and have a different lifestyle to go and live in without having to go to New Zealand. Do that in Japan. So you've got this duality. You've got the lifestyle and the economy. But the way to save the economy is not by trying to keep spreading everything thin. It's to concentrate it where it's supposed to be in the big cities, which politically, the political system is set up not to encourage that in Japan, but that's what needs to happen. So I think you can have both. That's my view. And the economy is going to get smaller. That's just going to happen. But it's never going to be like New Zealand. New Zealand's just a different thing. But you can have that. This is the thing. You can take the best things of the lifestyle of Hawaii or Australia or New Zealand, and you can have it in Japan. Japan's got the elements for it. It's got the fantastic nature. It's got a great lifestyle and everything like that. But you focus on that for the rural towns. Don't try to don't try to save them, keep them on life support. In the wrong way, if you ask me. And we're still talking about cereal, Benny Hill, onsens, and wow. We're out of time and my throat's gone, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to give up tonight, but there we go. I guess it looks like there's going to be a party after the show. There'll be a cereal party t-shirt. That's a good idea. Maybe that can be the shirt. Get your cereal. John W. Glad that you enjoyed the show. Glad to see all of you beautiful people again, as always. It's always great to hang out with you guys. I love talking about this stuff. So good to see you all. I'm going to sign off, but I hope you found that interesting. There's always lots of interesting stuff. Check out my Flipboard magazines. It's all in there, and you can talk with me about the stuff. And I'll try to, again, make it more compact next week. As always, but that's me. I'll see you on 2.5 Oyajis this Wednesday. Same time, 10:30, which will be on Victor's channel this week because it was on my channel with Eric this week, which is pretty cool. That was a good episode as well. And so I will see all you guys later. This is a long show. Wow, 1:15. Really good. Okay, I'll see all you guys later. Peace. Boom.